الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون.
We're live in Banjul, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. This is GRTS News at 2000 hours, and in our top stories this evening. His Excellency President Barrow visits Sinchu Alaji and Basori to pay his final respects to the demised police chief and late Khalif of Basori. Expanding community tourism, residents of Kumbo Lamin launch a collaborative effort to revive tourism in the town where scores of people rely on the sector for a livelihood. And find out later in the news how some young Gambians are set to benefit from a life-changing skills training. And in sports, former Gambian National Olympic Committee President Abdul Dandenjai died age 85. Away from home, officials of the European Medicine Agency has said that there is a link between AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine and blood clot. Well, those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. Many thanks for joining us. Welcome to GRTS News. We begin with the President, His Excellency Adam Barrow, who visited Sinchu Alaji and Basori on Monday to pay his final respects to the demised Inspector General of Police and late Khalif of Basori. Details in this report by our presidential correspondent, Mohamed Jallo.
The President, His Excellency Adam Barrow, arrived in Sinchu Alaji this afternoon to extend condolences to the family of the late Inspector General of Police, Mahmoud Job. Mr. Job died nearly 3 weeks ago after a brief illness. His death shocked the country as people from across the sub-region mourned the demise of a man described as an exemplary police officer. President Barrow condoled with the family, describing the late IGP's death as a great loss for the country. Mahmoud Job was more than a police chief, the President disclosed. He was a friend, brother, and a trusted confidant.
In my government, the late Mahmoud was the only one I talked to on a daily basis. He was not only a police chief, but a friend as well. This friendship grew to become a family, and we had high regard, respect, and trust for each other.
President Barrow reassured the family that he will continue to stand by them and give them all the necessary support to overcome this irreparable loss. Speaking on behalf of the family members, a brother of the late IGP, Alhaji Katim Toure, extended gratitude to the President for sharing their grief by personally visiting the family home, adding that it has reassured them that they are not alone in this very difficult time of mourning. He appealed to the President to remember the family that the late IGP left behind by giving them all the necessary support. The Minister of Interior, Yankuba Sonko, described the late IGP as an exemplary individual who was seen as a role model by many officers and men of the Gambia Police Force. His death, the Interior Minister added, is a great loss to the force and the country. President and delegation of ministers and officials later continued to Bazori to also pay condolences to the family of the late Khalifa General Alhaji Yusuf Dabo. There, President Barrow met his successor Alhaji Muniro Dabo and elders of the Dabo Kuda clan. The Imam of Bazori, Alhaji Yankuba Dabo, described the late Khalifa General as a great scholar who has immensely contributed to the propagation of the Islamic religion. Modu Dabo, a son of the late Khalifa General, expressed gratitude to President Barrow for coming at a time when they are still mourning the death of his father. President Barrow spoke of his relationship with the late Khalifa General, describing him as a friend who loved him. He recalled the crucial role played by the late Khalifa General in his political campaign in 2016, when he spent a night in Bazoli. This, the President added, inspired the historic victory that brought democracy. He therefore assured that he will continue to keep the bonds of friendship between him and the community of Bazoli. Modu Jallo, GRTS News.
To Lamin's Birota Tenda in the West Coast region, where a new project seeks to revive community tourism and boost the gains of the village's popular tourism harbor. Over the weekend, residents joined their partners to inaugurate a newly refurbished community center, solar-powered borehole, waste management pit, and artificial shore. The new facilities are meant to boast the area's once thriving tourism sector. More in this report.
Birota Tenda is Lamin's oldest riverside precinct, lowland farming site and a tourism hub. The exciting spot also accommodates the famous Lamin Lodge, several restaurants, and a boatyard and a bustling craft market. A joyous moment driven by efforts to revive tourism brings together the community, which is celebrating the inauguration of several projects masterminded by Papa Peter, a sailor who sailed from Germany to the Gambia on his own and fell in love at first sight when he docked at Lamin Lodge. Arriving during the pandemic, Papa Peter saw the closure of businesses at the site as a difficult setback and was affecting both Birota Tenda and the hundreds of people whose livelihoods depend on the area's fortunes. He will soon mobilize locals and the community to take advantage of the situation by building resilience and better conditions to restore the dilapidating structures of the lodge and its landscape. With the help of local native farmer Tarawale, proprietor of Lamin Lodge, the locals built a community skills training center. The Mami Water Yacht Club Community Center will focus on providing swimming lessons and first aid while seeking support to take care of the productive harbor. A solar-powered borehole has been erected for access to clean portable water, alongside a brand new toilet, shower house, and a waste management pit to manage litter via systematic separation of plastic and metals for recycling. The locals also created an artificial shore as a sandbank to minimize the salt intrusion, preventing the overflowing river from eating up infrastructure. It is also used as a lounge for visitors. The GRTS crew was taken on a test cruise on the Mami Water Yacht, the White Seahorse, with our tour guide Mohamed Lamin Tambedu explaining the area's history and attractions shaping the vast ecosystem by the mangroves complements oyster fishing and biodiversity.
And this creek is connected to the main river Gambia, 5 kilometers. It flows into Lamin. So also, ladies are also engaged on the fishing, oyster and the couple production. That is, when the oyster season is over, they go for the cockles and the mussels on the sandbar. Because in the river Gambia, most of the time we don't have rocks, but we have some sand deposit around the river Gambia.
As the pandemic surges towards uncertainty, local tourism is the only option for communities. Tour prices here are trimmed down to fit the local spending capacity. Back on shore, community elders and visitors convened for the formal launch where the vice chair of Lamin's VDC, Lamin Kamara, underscored the community's move to build resilience in a bid to boost income through the pandemic.
That for a long time when this Bretonda was opened years ago by the elders of this community, and they make it for a recreation center for the young people of this village. But we are very happy now the young people have taken it up themselves to make sure that it is developed to a standard.
International Papa Peter also shared a few words of gratitude to the community.
I came here as a sailor. I arrived here in December, and it was amazing how this community was welcoming me. I came on shore and it was just normal, come to eat lunch with us. It was feeling like coming home.
And finally, Farmer Tarawale highlighted the constraints local faced amid a scourging pandemic that robbed them of every livelihood.
We need a good electricity supply here. So for now, we have all the last pole out there, very far away. So if we can have for now a solar system, that is our constraint now. Lighting system is our constraint. And the other one also is to accessibility, the road to get here.
The exciting day ended with a pirogue race, with 7 captains racing to beat each other. Babli Mansa took an early lead, but was overtaken by Markondau, who eventually came first place. The winners received a cash prize of $1,000, whilst participants were each given coffee mugs and $100 each. Lamin Birota Tenda is looking forward towards better days as the community moves to deliver an unplanned contingency, paying attention to sustainability and the upkeep of the community center and all facilities developed to create employment and a thriving local economy. Reporting for GRTS News, I'm by Ibrahim Chan.
The International Trade Center, partnering with Tough Africa Global Foundation on Tuesday, launched a masonry apprenticeship training program for 25 young people from the North, Lower and Central River regions for a duration of 18 months. Aissatou Jata Gasma has the details in this report.
This pilot program is aimed at increasing the impact and effectiveness of apprenticeship models by formalizing and strengthening delivery and assessment programs. The scheme also seeks to build the skills and knowledge of youth and women participants through industry-oriented on-the-job training in masonry. Yaba Janjai is the general manager of estate giant Tough Africa Global.
As a Pan-African organization, Tough Africa views this investment as a moral obligation to not only nurture and groom the next generation of African leaders, but also to make a difference in the lives of communities who have given a lot to our organization over the past 30 years.
Tough program coordinator Amadou Njai said 200 young people applied for the scheme. 100 were subsequently shortlisted and 25 finally selected to take up the capacity building challenge and make good use of the opportunity.
Construction sector, as you all know, is very much relevant to the quest for development in the Gambia. As highlighted in the National Skills Survey that was done in 2019, the recently developed entrepreneurship policy as well, the industrial policy, also the National Development Plan as well. And through a robust apprenticeship program, it is envisioned that the apprentice will be equipped with competencies that will allow them to engineer a revolution in the construction industry.
The International Trade Center's Yusufa Keita said apprenticeship should not be merely seen as an alternative option for those who cannot take an academic route, as youths play a pivotal role in nation building. He urged young participants to show commitment, discipline and hard work to successfully complete the training program.
Choosing this 25 was really a challenge. I mean, you are here not because you are the best, but we had to draw the line somewhere, and it was drawn below your level. I want you to understand that you have a very unique opportunity and you should use it. Doing craft work is not easy. It needs a lot of training, and the people who are training you, their goal is not a training program. These are contractors who have been employed to build houses for TAF. Now, this is not a school. It's an apprenticeship. You are supposed to participate, pull your weight, and learn from the people who are training you.
The apprenticeship will last for 18 months, structured across 3 periods of 6 months, and the training will follow the program that are laid down by the apprenticeship framework and will undertake a practical assessment at the end of each period with the support of NACA. ITC is very much delighted to partner with Tough Africa Global to deliver the apprenticeship program. Since the beginning of the partnership, they have shown professionalism, commitment, consistency, and quality in every step of the journey. and we strongly believe this will be inculcated in the apprentices to complement the skills they will be learning.
This apprenticeship program is part of a three-tier program piloted to advance skills in ICT, food processing, and construction as a critical and credible alternative to full-time TVET initiatives that will allow young people to acquire competencies in construction. Aissatou Diatta Gassama, GRTS.
April 7th, 2021, Gambia will join the rest of the world to commemorate World Health Day under the theme Together for a Fairer, Healthier World. On this occasion, the World Health Organization, WHO, calls for urgent action to eliminate health inequities and mobilize action to attain better health for all and leave no one behind. The WHO's country representative ahead of the global commemoration in the Gambia, Desta Turuni, gave a televised statement in observance of the day. Here's an excerpt.
The COVID-19 pandemic has shone a light on inequalities between countries. Amid shortage of essential supplies, African countries have been pushed to the back of the queue in accessing COVID-19 test kits, personal protective equipment, and now vaccines. Of 548 million COVID-19 vaccine doses administered worldwide, only 11 million or 2% have been in Africa, whereas the continent accounts for around 17% of the world population. There are also inequalities within countries. Discrimination based on gender, place of residence, income, educational level, age, ethnicity, disability, intersect to a disadvantaged vulnerable populations. Recent data from 17 African countries showed, for example, that a person with secondary school education is 3 times as likely to have access to contraception as someone who has not attended school. Those in the highest economic group are 5 times more likely to deliver their babies in health facilities and have their babies vaccinated with BCG compared to those with the lowest income group. To improve this situation, we need to act on the social economic determinants of health by working across sectors to improve living and working conditions and access to education, particularly for the most marginalized groups. The World Health Day, on World Health Day, I call on member states, partners, civil society, communities, and other stakeholders to intensify work with WHO to achieve universal health coverage and to invest in addressing the social and economic determinants of health, to tackle inequalities and build a fairer and healthier world. As WHO, we remain committed to ensure that all people in Africa and globally can realize the right to good health. I thank you.
Workers in the Upper River region, led by the governor of the region, Samba Ba, and other heads of departments, have for the second time conducted a walk for health exercise. The event convened civil servants in URR from a walk from Basse Mansajang through the town's bypass highway to Alunhare on the outskirts of the town. Officials say the exercise is meant to foster unity in the workforce and ensure physical health. Seydou Kamara has more.
It was a morning meant to be spent at home relaxing as Easter holiday. But these civil servants and security personnel in Basse in the Upper River region opted to put on their sporting gears and hit the road by walking almost for 10 kilometers. This is the second edition of Work for Health initiative led by the governor of the region, Sambaba, security chiefs, and department heads in the region. The objective of this Work for Health is to promote the culture of exercising among government workers in the area and bring them together to interact and discuss important issues of development. The participants walked from Basse Mansajang to Al Nuhare, covering a distance of about 10 kilometers. The procession was led by personnel of the 3rd Infantry Battalion from the Basse military camp, which was fun-filled throughout. Various department heads who took part in the event said such activities are important, which creates the rare opportunity for staff of different departments to come together and network.
This is very, very important to our health as civil servants, because if you look at it, all around, all the week, from Monday to Friday, we are sitting under AC, and from the ACs, we are in our vehicles. The vehicles also, we have AC, looking at the conditions in Basse, so it's not good for us. So this work for health is very important for all civil servants and even ordinary people.
One of the important aspects of this, of the whole program, is to bring the institution together, to have that harmony, to have that cohesion, to have that unity. So we will see that across all the institutions that are involved into these activities, they are from different fields. And once they come together, they will know each other, they will share their experience, and they will build that friendship.
The regional principal nursing officer at the Health Directorate in URR, Ibrahim Balde, stressed the health benefits of exercising, and he commended the organizers.
Have a lot of health issues disturbing the entire public, everywhere, anywhere you go to. Among them is the non-communicable diseases that we always talk about. And when we talk about these non-communicable diseases, the first few things that came to mind would be things like hypertension, diabetics, obesity, and the others follow. We know if we keep exercising, you have that health, you keep fit, and then together we can do this to have a better community, a better workforce.
Good teamwork is the strength for all of us, and we cannot make any development when we don't adopt good teamwork. So I'm encouraging my colleagues with all the relevant stakeholders for us to continue the good spirit and advocate for teamwork, so that anything we intend to achieve in the future, we'll be able to achieve through teamwork.
The governor of the region, Sambaba, who is the brain behind the initiative, shared his impression on the successful conduct of the 2nd edition.
As civil servants and then public servants in this region, it's important for us to organize such a particular day where we will converge. After the exercise, we discuss the way forward of Upper River region. We all know that each institution here is tasked with a responsibility. And because we are tasked with a responsibility, it's also important for us to synchronize our efforts and then our activities to make sure that we help each other where somebody falls short. Because we know that most of these institutions and works are cross-cutting.
Governor Ba commended all those who participated in the exercise, which is intended to nurture good working relationship among the various departments, as well as help the workforce to stay fit and healthy. Now that the 2nd edition was also well conducted, the organizers are calling on all stakeholders to take part in the subsequent events, as they intend to make it a continuous exercise. Seru Kamara, reporting for Grts News from Basse, Upper River region.
We'll be back with sports news right after this break. To stay with us.
Always thirsty for more. A team of superheroes with special powers unite to redefine the way we are connected. Big Farber Vegas steps up your communication with the DOK service, giving you 1,000 minutes of talk time to one special person for $150 is only. Valid for 1 month. Enjoy your talk time. Type SUB and send by SMS to 135 to activate the TOK service. AfriCell got office with the power to change the world. AfriCell is setting trends once again. I'm sure you still love WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Viber. Your favorite GSM operator, AfriCell, knows this. That's why you can now enjoy more at the same price. Activate the social media bundle and be online for 24 hours for $10 is only.
Hello! Activate the social media bundle for $10 is only and receive 40 megabytes.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back, and now to a bit of sad news, because Gambian sports is mourning following the demise on Tuesday of Abu Dandenjai, former president of the Gambian National Olympic Committee, where he served from 1989 to 2008. The late Abu Dandinjai, who was laid to rest on the same day, was also the president of the executive committee of the Pipeline Mosque and Foundation. Well, more on the life and legacy of the late sports administrator, rather. We are joined live in our studios by Modu Senghor. Good to have you here, Mr. Senghor.
Good to be here, Mr. Cham.
First of all, for us, the younger generation, who was Abu Dandinjai?
Alhaji Abu Dandinjai was a man of many parts. As you said in your opening remark, he was a sports person. He has represented his country in several sports disciplines. When we were growing up, he was one of our foremost cricketers. He played football, he played tennis, and at a very high level. And of course, ultimately, his interest in sports continued, and he became the chairman of the Gambia National Olympic Committee. So he was a personality who was not just known in the Gambia for his activities in sports and promoting sports, but also at the international level.
Okay, great. Yeah. Now, he was the president of the Gambia National Olympic Committee, one of the highest sports officers in the country. Now, what was his contribution in the advancement of sports in the Gambia?
I wouldn't want to venture too much in that area, because my relationship with him was more towards what he did at the Pipeline Mosque Foundation. I think people like Alaji Ablai Toure Bax would be in a better position to comment on his achievements as a sports personality. But I mean, I think his record speaks for itself.
Okay.
He's a household name in the sporting world.
Okay. Yeah. Now, please tell us about his role as an elderly and religious figure in the Pipeline community, as well as his service to humanity.
He was a very good Muslim, a very devout Muslim. And I can say he devoted the last 30 years of his life serving Islam and serving humanity. He was the president of the Pipeline Mosque Foundation. And during his term of leadership, the mosque made enormous strides. The magnificent edifice that you see was built under his leadership. We have a very robust welfare program that the mosque or the foundation is involved in. This outreach social program involves assisting the needy, the poor and the needy, assisting our prisons, assisting the home for the mentally challenged people. We have a very strong partnership with the Serekunda General Hospital, where we sponsor the mortuary. We provide bed sheets and mosquito nets, not only for Serekunda Hospital, for almost all the hospitals in the country.
And he led this
initiative. He was our leader. He was a good leader, a very strong leader, and a consensus builder.
Great. Now, how should the Gambia remember Alhaji Abu Dandinjai?
I think we should remember him as an outstanding son of the country, an outstanding son of the Gambia, who led by example. He provided strong leadership, and he led by example. He was very modest. He didn't want to talk. He never wanted to talk about his own personal achievements, but he's also able to lead people, particularly the younger generation, motivate them, challenge them, motivate them to achieve results. And that is what good leadership is about. You know, building capacity, empowering people, pushing them, challenging them to produce results. And
speaking of leadership, how can people like us, the younger generation, emulate people like the late Alhaji Abu Dandinjai?
Leadership is also about selflessness. If you're leading people and you're selfless about it, you will achieve results. But if you are leading because you have some entrenched interests, you will not be a good leader. And that is why I said Alhaji led by example. Because if, for example, if we were raising funds for a particular project,
he'll be the first to contribute.
He'll be the first to contribute. Not only him, but he will also urge members of his close family to contribute, and contribute very generously. And he will also urge us, the committee members of the mosque to contribute. And that is, I think, one of the reasons behind the success of Pipeline Mosque, because the leadership itself sets the example. Before we come out to you, Mr. Cham, to ask for assistance, we pass the hat around the table and collect. And when we collect very generously. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for your time here on the news, Mr. Senghor. Our heartfelt condolences to the family of the Pipeline Committee and the entire sports fraternity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cham, for inviting me.
We'll go for another short break, and when we return, the international news is up next. Senior officials of the European Medicine Agency have said that there is a link between the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine and blood clot. Last week, Germany suspended routine years of a vaccine and people under 60 years of age. That was after 9 people who have received the vaccine died from rare blood clots. The EMA is expected to issue an update today. For more perspective on this, we join DWTV on how safe is the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Let's get some perspective on this story now from the UK. We're joined by Dr. Julian Tang. He's a virologist in the city of Leicester. Welcome to DW. Now, we keep seeing the AstraZeneca vaccine being linked to these rare blood clots, and I want to get your opinion on this. How safe is this vaccine?
Okay, so the first thing to say is that this vaccine is safer than having the virus itself. We know that COVID-19 causes lots of complications, including blood clots, at a much higher frequency than the vaccine. So relative to the virus itself, getting the vaccine is safer.
There are concerns, however, about these rare blood clots that we're seeing. Do we know what factors make people more likely to develop these clots?
Okay, so there's a difference here. The natural infection causes more clotting complications in older male patients and those who have diabetes and obesity. For the AstraZeneca vaccine proposed adverse effect, we've seen this in younger females, so almost the opposite picture to what we see with the virus infection. I suspect all of this is linked to a kind of hyperinflammatory response that you see in some people and not in others, in both the vaccine response, adverse effect, as well as the virus natural infection.
What about in the UK? Because we know that millions of people have received the AstraZeneca vaccine there already. Has the data shown similar cases of these blood clots there?
Yes, so they've shown at least 30 cases, of which 7 have died in the younger population, and they're proposing to restrict the AstraZeneca to those who are older, like the over 30s, for example. Part of the problem is that the UK has vaccinated so many people up to the age of 50, over the age of 50 now. They can't restrict the AstraZeneca vaccine to much older people than 50. So it's slightly different from the Scandinavian and European approach. Certainly, I know that in Germany, Finland, Sweden, and even Canada, they've restricted the vaccine to those who are over 55. And that's to protect the younger population that seem to be more vulnerable to this severe adverse effect of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
You mentioned there the different approaches that we're seeing in Europe, like here in Germany, some will only offer it to people over the age of 60. So what do you think is the right approach, the right way to administer this vaccine?
So the people most vulnerable to severe disease and death from COVID-19 are the older people. And we're seeing fewer of these adverse effects from the vaccine in the older population. So giving the vaccine to that older age group, the over 60s, over 55, seems to be a good idea to actually, hit two birds with one stone, essentially. Where you have the cutoff for the younger population is difficult to say. Plus, also you have other problems with vaccine supply locally, as well as the other vaccines may have other adverse effects as well, as we see in the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines that have been rolled out across the USA in large numbers. So I think every vaccine will have a different profile, and we have to try and figure out which population best benefits from the vaccine with the fewest side effects going forward. And don't forget, there are relatively few of these adverse effects with the AstraZeneca vaccine so far. With more and more cases coming forward, and I think there will be more, you might see a more kind of universal profile that people can then adapt to when making these vaccine recommendations for the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Now, diplomats from the world's most powerful countries are meeting in Austria's capital today for talks aimed at salvaging the Iran nuclear deal. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration wants to revive the accord but has said that it requires negotiations. Now, Iran is refusing direct talks, calling for sanctions to be lifted first. Then, European nations will mediate between the two sides. A 2015 agreement to limit Iran's nuclear program collapsed after then-President Donald Trump withdrew and reinstated sanctions on the country. U.S. and Iran officials laid out their aims ahead of Tuesday's talks. More on this DWTV report.
That Iran's nuclear program is permanently and verifiably constrained, and that on a permanent and verifiable basis, Iran will not be able to obtain a nuclear weapon.
Whether the Joint Commission's agenda produces a result or not depends on the Europeans and reminding the U.S. of its obligations and the Americans acting on their commitments.
And DW's Brussels correspondent Terry Schultz is with me now. Hi, Terry. So as we just heard, these are being described as indirect talks. Can you tell us what that means and what is going to happen today?
That's right, and this is because Iran refuses to sit down with the United States until the U.S. lifts the sanctions that President Trump reinstated on Iran, and the U.S. says it's not ready to do that yet. And so what's going to happen is that the other parties, Britain, France, Germany, China, and Russia, will hold talks with Iran, and then they will hold talks with the United States. It's unclear at
Terry, is there a realistic prospect that both sides will simply sign up to that original treaty once again?
Well, a technical point is that Iran never actually quit the deal. It's violating it in some very significant ways, but it remains in the deal. It's the United States that quit, and that's a point that Tehran makes again and again. So the United States still has some of the same problems under President Biden that it had under President Trump. They don't go so far as to say it's the worst deal ever, as Trump did, but they do have some issues that you heard State Department spokesman Ned Price
Celsius respective. As we move to the afternoon, temperatures are expected to increase to 40 degrees over the eastern part of the country, 39 over the central part of the country, whilst West Coast records 36 degrees Celsius and Greater Baja records 35 degrees Celsius respective. For those going to sea, low tide are expected to be 0.5 meters at 12 a.m. and 0.6 meters at 1 p.m. High tide will be 1.4 meters at 7 a.m. and 1.6 meters at 7 p.m. The sun is expected to rise at 4 minutes to the hour of 7 and sets at 20 minutes after the hour of 7 in the evening. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do have a pleasant evening.
Well, that wraps up this edition of GRTS News, but here's a recap of our top stories. The President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, has visited Sinjo Alaji and Barsori on Monday to pay his final respects to the demised Inspector General of Police and late Khalif of Barsori. Expanding community tourism, residents of Kumbo Lamin launch a collaborative effort to revive tourism in the town where scores of people rely on the sector for a livelihood. The International Trade Center, partnering with Tough Africa Global Foundation on Tuesday, launched a masonry apprenticeship training program for 25 young people from the North, Lower and Central River regions. In sports, former president of the Gambia National Olympic Committee between 1989 and 1998, Abdou Dandinjai, has died aged 85. Senior officials of the European Medicine Agency has said that there is a link between the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine and blood clot. Last week, Germany suspended routine years of the vaccine and people under 60 years of age. With that, thanks for watching and please enjoy the rest of our interesting programs.